As a daughter of an immigrant and a Chinese Filipino American, better known as Asian American, I've noticed that in many DEIA campaigns, the Asian American voice is missing. The Asian American voice, however, is an integral piece of the diversity puzzle. Asian Americans are one of the fastest growing minority groups in the U.S. Collectively, we comprise of over 50 different countries, from Korea to the Philippines to Japan to China. Perhaps we're missing because we blend into corporate America so well as model minorities, putting our heads down and working hard. Or, if we do run into adversity, we opt out to create our own economic opportunities. We can no longer blend into the environment. We need to speak up and be seen. The future of a diverse workplace depends on it. I am Valerie Chan, and this is my Oxford Talk. I got my first taste of racism at the age of 6. I was changing for ballet practice in the back seat of my mother's parked car. 2 boys threw berries through the open window, screaming "chink" before running away. I had never heard that word before, but when I looked at my mom sitting horrified in the front seat, I knew it was bad. They see you differently because of how you look, she said, but they won't see you differently if you work hard, put your head down, and do as you're told. In that moment, I became aware of a new surface of my identity that I hadn't considered yet. I was Asian American. Through that discovery, I internalized the idea that being Asian American was something to fix. If I just tried hard enough, I could blend in and reduce the harm that came with being different. I followed my mother's advice, working diligently in school to set myself up for success in the workplace. Despite my efforts, I still experienced racism and discrimination in my adult life. Early in my career, an email went out to all 185 company employees asking those who consider themselves culture diverse to report for a photo shoot at a neighboring company that had won an award for the most diverse workplace. They needed substitutes for their culture diverse staff in the picture who were off-site that day. I approached HR about the offensiveness of the email, explaining that my fellow minority colleagues and I felt singled out because it was an email asking for minorities under the guise of cultural diversity, reducing us to numbers to fill a minority quota. It was as if we were interchangeable with one another. After that conversation, I thought that we had resolved the matter, but it became clear that the conversation had hurt my standing at the firm. Repeatedly, the photo shoot incident was cited as one of the main reasons why I wasn't awarded a promotion or a raise. For obvious reasons, I left. I'm happy to report that corporate America has changed since those early days of my career. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility are now integral aspects of corporate culture, promoting cultural diversity and combating racism. Companies recognize the importance of aligning their workforce with their communities and customers, employing measurable metrics to foster a diverse, equitable, and culturally connected workplace. There are, however, still plenty forms of discrimination in the workplace. Let me speak of my own experience as an Asian American. There is a long history of lumping together Asian Americans into a single monolithic group, or as culture likes to call, the model minority, a misnomer that still hangs over our heads. We are viewed collectively as hardworking, educated, and integrated, as if the tastes, attitudes, and behaviors of all Asian Americans were identical. The model minority trope ignores the fact that Asian Americans represent more than 50 ethnic groups, all with different cultures, languages, and religions. It ignores the fact that we have lived very different experiences in the U.S. The damaging effects of this trope are most obvious in the workplace. Asian Americans are seen as quiet doers instead of vocal leaders with their own unique character traits, skill sets, talents, career goals, and dreams. The result is that Asian Americans are often left out of the DEIA discussions. The proof is in the numbers. A recent McKinsey study of more than 400 large U.S. organizations found that Asian Americans account for 9% of senior vice presidents, but just 5% of promotions from the SVP to the C-suite. Those who do get the promotion still make up for only 93 cents for every dollar earned by their white colleagues. Another McKinsey report shows Asian Americans experience lower inclusion rates, perceive lower levels of fairness, and receive less support and opportunities at work than their white peers. So why, as Asian Americans, are we still reluctant to call attention to the threads of racism and discrimination that weave their way through the modern workplace? What's stopping us from demanding a seat at the table? The problem is rooted in our own fear, a fear that has been reinforced decade after decade in the U.S. by ethnic slurs, open hostility towards Asian immigrants, anti-Asian legislation, suppression of protests by Asian immigrant workers, and acts of physical violence against Asians and Asian Americans that are ignored by law enforcement and continue to this day. In 1854, the California Supreme Court declared that Asian voices don't count in court against white defendants. In 1882, Congress passed the Chinese Exclusion Act in response to the concerns of the number of Chinese immigrants. In 1913, California enacted the Alien Land Law, barring Asian immigrants from owning land. During World War II, more than 120,000 Japanese Americans were incarcerated in internment camps. In the 1990s, Asian Americans faced a wave of anti-Asian violence in major U.S. cities like Philadelphia and Atlanta. As recently as 2021, Asian hate crimes increased by 339%, fueled by the rapid spread of misinformation and misplaced fear around COVID and references to the Kung flu and China virus. All of this is to say, the receipts are there. The history of racism and discrimination against Asians and Asian Americans is well documented and written into law and history of the U.S., and history is repeating itself before our very own eyes. It's no wonder Asian Americans struggle to stand up in places where white people hold power, like the workplace. It's understandable why we haven't felt comfortable asking for a seat at the table, instead putting our heads down, working hard, and doing as we're told, because the consequences of standing up are still very, very real. For me, it's also about my own culture. Much of how I carry myself in the workplace is influenced by my own upbringing and ancestry, rooted in an Eastern culture dating hundreds, even thousands of years, where the predominant belief is you prioritize the collective over the individual, that working hard in the name of the many will eventually be recognized and rewarded. Unfortunately, corporate America remains an environment that rewards individual achievement over the collective ideal, hyper-competitive, every person for themselves, where the loudest person in the room gets the most attention. So how can Asian Americans get a real seat at the table? First, companies must take meaningful action to promote accountability and create supportive workplace environments for Asian Americans, addressing microaggressions and stereotypes through cultural sensitivity training and other non-performative DEIA efforts. Raising awareness about harmful stereotypes and offering cultural sensitivity training can combat bias and promote accountability. It's crucial to create a workplace that genuinely supports and uplifts all employees daily, taking the lead in fostering a more inclusive environment. In the age of algorithms and data, companies must look closely at the data around Asian American experiences within the organization with the goal to understand how Asian American subgroups are treated at every stage of the employee life cycle, and then take steps against that data, whether it be promoting fairness in hiring, equalizing raises and promotions, or providing better mentorship. Along the way, employers should welcome honest feedback and create spaces for healthy dialogue in the spirit of continuous improvement. But we Asian Americans have work to do too. As Asian Americans, we can't hide anymore, relying on the quality of our work, as my mother once advised when I was younger. It may be uncomfortable, but it's time to raise our voices and be the architects of our own future. We won't lose our identity, but will unite as a force to demand what's rightfully ours. Let's actively join organizations, lead workshops, engage in mentorship programs that drive change and celebrate cultural diversity alongside work ethic. Let's collaborate with leadership to call out problems and design new avenues for opportunity. And let's do it in a way that acknowledges and amplifies the inherent value that we bring to the table through our own unique cultural identities. By merging our individual voices into a powerful collective that takes action, we then can create lasting change.